I'm Lisa Gubernick. In case you don't know who I am, I'm the VP of Membership for NCJW. Thank you so much for joining us today for the second part of our two-part virtual event, Organize and Optimize, Never Say You Have Nothing to Wear. We're so fortunate to have Nancy Litz here again to help us figure out what to put in our closets now that she guided us through what to take out of them. As a side note, St. Louis Closets is featuring the Back to School store. A percentage of the sales through the month of June benefit the Back to School stores, so be sure to contact them for any of your closet needs. And a housekeeping note for NCJW members, renew those memberships. Anyone who's interested in becoming a member, let us know. I'm looking for people for a membership committee, so you can email me at lgpodo@aol.com. And we have more virtual events coming up. One is July 23rd, 8:30 to 9:30 with me and Susan Katzman. We'll have interesting discussion topics and laughs, and RSVP link will be coming soon. And again, without further ado, Nancy Litz, our veteran wardrobe consultant, is going to talk about what we should be putting in our closets. Take it away, Nancy.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to presume that all of you were with us last week when we talked about the steps or the process of reorganizing and weeding out your closet. So today we're going to focus on how to make those challenging decisions about what stays and what goes. I'm going to move forward on the assumption that you have followed the guideline of taking everything out and having it on a rolling rack or spread out in some way so that you can actually see it. And if you'll remember, we're approaching it from the viewpoint not so much of what goes as of what stays. So let me share my screen and we'll move through some PowerPoint slides. If you have questions or comments as you go, type them into the chat box that's typically located across the bottom of your screen. And if there's anything that's an emergency that you have to know that second, Jessa will interrupt and let me know in case I don't see it. And if there's anything that I need to get back to you about later, I'm happy to do that as well. Okay, let's go to share. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Jessa, can you fix me? Okay.
I'm working on it. Try it now.
Yes, got it. All righty. So we have that rack of things that are potentially going to go back into our closet. How do we make those decisions? Well, the first thing I want you to think about is putting a priority on solid color garments. Nearly every closet I go into has way too many prints and patterns and plaids and stripes. And I'm not here to say that you shouldn't have any of those. Of course, that's perfectly fine. However, having fewer of them is going to give you a lot more mix and match. So if you're on the line about something, it gets bonus points, if you will, for being a solid color. You also want to focus on things that are classic styling, things that are going to live on year after year in your wardrobe. And what defines something as classic is really sort of basic, not a lot of embellishments, no extreme kind of styling. So those pieces also get extra points when you're looking at what to bring back. You also, let me back up one second. You also want to evolve a wardrobe where you have more tops than bottoms. The reason is that no matter what our silhouette or our personal style, we really should always pay attention to dressing in a way that pulls people's attention up around our face. So they're making eye contact with us, they're exchanging facial expressions more in the time when we don't have to wear a mask, but we'll set that aside. And where we want the interest to be. So you don't need nearly as many bottoms. Those are going to be basic. The fun and interesting stuff is going to happen on top. This slide is about being really wary of things that are too trendy. If you remember about this time last year, fashion was all about cutout shoulders and these big, extreme, oversized, drapey, puffy sleeves. And do you see how already those pieces look so dated and so last year? Where if somebody had spent their money on, let's just consider that same little blouse on the bottom left, that little blouse with just the plain short sleeve, how they could go on wearing that for literally a decade. Now, one word about trends. Occasionally you'll hit a fashion cycle where the thing that's the hot trend is also one of your absolute favorites. And for me, one of my absolute favorites is tweed jackets or skirts where the fabric has been unraveled to create a fringed effect. And when I hit a season where that's a big look, I definitely buy it, I definitely wear it, and then the next season I put it away because everybody knows it was last year. But I don't get rid of it because it's a favorite. I bring it out again the next year and it has 5 or 6 or 8 more years of life in my wardrobe because people have forgotten that it was the big trend in year X. Sorry, a little technical glitch here. Okay. The next thing we want to give priority to is what I call a client's key neutral. A key neutral is the base color that they're going to use in their wardrobe. Now, we have all been absolutely indoctrinated by retail to believe that everyone needs to build their wardrobe around a base color of black. That works so well for retail. Because if they convince us that there's only one base color we should all wear, then there's only one base color that they need to carry. But that does not have anything to do with what looks the best on us. You'll notice this group of women are all wearing colors that relate to their hair color. Might not be exactly, that's fine. Our hair's not usually one color all over anyway. So some of them have on the low light, the palest version of their hair color. Others might have on the highlight, the lightest color from their overall hair color, but something that relates to their personal appearance. And do you see how cohesive that looks on each of them? Now I've overlaid those neutrals with just a block of black. And do you see how now you're getting what I call the floating head effect, where there's this chunk of color, ostensibly what they would be wearing, a black outfit, and then there's their head, but they look totally disconnected. Now, I won't ask you to raise hands. That might be embarrassing, and I can't see all of you anyway. But I would say that 95 out of 100 clients that I work with tells me in some way that she really prefers styles and looks that make her look taller and trimmer. What happens if you're wearing a color that's so out of sync with you that your head literally floats away visually? Do you see how that's in effect chopping 10 to 12 inches off your height? Probably not what we want to do. So think as you're putting things back about really, really looking for basic pieces, especially pants and skirts, shells, and jackets in colors that relate to your hair. I asked you last week to take a critical look at all the duplication that you might have in black. Now I'm going to ask you to open up your mind to the thought of actually purging that color out of your closet. Now, that's not the right choice for everyone. Someone with black or near black hair is great in black. And there are ways to make it work for other color patterns as well, but it doesn't need to be your absolute basic. So here's an example of a client with fabulous silver gray hair. Now, if that's being covered up for you by the strip of faces that you're seeing down the side, I believe that you can drag and drop that, that group of faces so you're seeing her as well as the clothing. But one of the absolute ace tricks for a versatile wardrobe that magazines and books almost never tell you about is what I call a core four in that key neutral, that neutral that's related in some way to your hair color. So a core four means two different bottoms. Most typically, that's a pair of pants and a skirt. It might, if you're never a skirt person, it might be a dress pant and a pair of jeans. In this case, it would be a gray jean. If you're a never pants person, it might be a shorter skirt and a longer, fuller one, but two different bottoms, and then an underlayer top, and often more than one underlayer top would be good. And then some sort of overlayer top. It might be a tailored jacket, it might be a zip front hoodie, or anything in between. But two bottoms, underlayer top, and overlayer top in your key neutral. So if you can find those pieces among what you have, that's great. And if not, you might want to put them right now on your fill-in list, because let me show you the wardrobe magic that can create for you. Now, those pieces can make two different monochromatic outfits. So either bottom with the overlayer and underlayer top is an outfit. You'll want to accessorize that within an inch of its life to keep it from being a complete snoozer, but it can be terrific. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The other thing that those four pieces can do is create four of what we call color columns. And a color column means a continuous flow of the same or a closely related color from the bottom of your look all the way to the top of your look. Now, do you see how the bottom of it, speaking back to your hair color, is going to be even more valuable to extend the length that it's seeing there? So you have the pant and the underlayer top, and the skirt and the underlayer top. And now you can take any contrasting jacket and layer, or a cardigan or a sweatshirt or whatever, and layer it over that and continue building outfits in the absolute easiest and most efficient way. Or you can have either bottom with your overlayer top. In this case, it's that draped front cardigan. And now you can start layering other shells, other tanks, other camisoles, other blouses, other button-up shirts, and make outfit after outfit after outfit, building off just those four critical pieces. So anything that's your hair color or closely related to it, unless it has some other absolutely fatal flaw about the item, is likely to be something you want to put back in your closet. That leads to a reminder of something I hope I mentioned last week, which is that the secret to this whole wardrobing process for every client, regardless of her age, her shape, her budget, her lifestyle, is a concept that I call points of connection. And points of connection simply means that, let me get rid of Pat's message there that's probably showing up for you. Simply means that the more characteristics that exist in common between you and the things you choose to wear, the more fabulous you will look. And the more fabulous your clothes will look too, because you and they are reinforcing each other based on the very simple artistic principle of repetition. The more any element is repeated, the more right, the more visually pleasing it will look. So in addition to looking for pieces that repeat your hair color, that's an obvious point of connection. Another really interesting one is to look for pieces that are closely related to your skin tone. For Caucasian women, that often means this soft, pale color that I call blush. It's a little pinker than peach and a little peachier than pink, but just a beautiful petal kind of color. Now that's not a color that you probably will want to wear head to toe, at least not most of the time, because it's so closely matched to your skin that it can at a distance create the illusion that there's nothing there but you. And maybe there was an age at which we would have thought that was cool, but I think most of us are way past that. In fact, my father-in-law just sent me a joke about a woman who surprised her husband by showing up in the buff and telling him that it was her fabulous new outfit from Neiman Marcus, and his comment was, for all that money, you should think they would have ironed it. Ouch. But back to our wardrobes, especially for underlayer or overlayer tops, you want to give a garment extra brownie points, extra credibility toward growing back into your closet if it's repeating that skin tone color. And of course, it's worth mentioning that not every person on the planet has blushy pink skin, but the same thing still applies. Can you see how the golden brown tones in these pieces are relating so beautifully back to this model's darker skin tone? Our eye color is another terrific color to repeat in our wardrobes. And this is such a sneaky little trick, but anytime you wear an upper body garment or even an accessory piece, a scarf or an item of jewelry that relates closely to your eye color, without ever knowing why, people that you interact with will make eye contact with you more readily and sustain eye contact with you longer, feel more connected to you, be more open to influence by what you say, just by causing that eye contact to take place so easily. A mistake that people often will make is to think that they are repeating their eye color, but to do it by wearing something that's in the same color family, but a whole lot brighter. Do you see how her eyes don't look nearly as compelling when we've surrounded them with royal blue as they did when we surrounded them by this more subtle blue? Do you see that difference? Now, that doesn't mean that the royal blue might not be a perfectly fine color for her, but it's not going to be that killer color that makes that eye contact thing happen. One other color family to mention, as you're choosing things from your rack to put back in your closet, an item gets bonus points if it's from the turquoise blue, teal blue, aqua blue into jade green, a real blue toned green color family. That's the most universally flattering color family that exists on the planet. It works, each of us has our own unique, very best, but it's a great color on everybody. In fact, I just realized as I'm saying this, I'll stand up a little bit. Do you see how I'm wearing something like that now? And it's not just that it's my favorite color. There's actually a scientific reason that it works the way that it does. Here's a color wheel, which is a systematic arrangement of all the colors that we see. And it's a really basic concept that any two colors that are opposite one another on the color wheel, when you put them side by side, they brighten or strengthen or intensify one another. We call them complementary colors. And if you think about it, a lot of sports teams will choose those color wheel opposite colors. Blue and orange, for instance, is a big sports team color combination because it's so incredibly bright and eye-catching. But if you'll look here, I've added a white double-pointed arrow to that color wheel to show you that that turquoise, blue, aqua, jade color range is directly across from, or the most complementary or flattering color from, Caucasian human skin tones, and not very far off from the more golden skin tones of many Black women as well. So that's really a magic color to look for in your wardrobe. Now, of course, all of us can wear additional colors. And I probably should back up and say that although color is only one of the criteria for what stays in our closet, based on literally 30 years of doing this work, I can say without a shadow of doubt that it's the most important factor in making a wardrobe really flattering to the woman who wears it. So even if everything else is right, even if it's the most expensive garment you ever bought and it fits your body like a dream and you have the perfect accessories, if the color makes you look like you died yesterday, that's not a piece that I'm going to leave in a client's closet, and I hope that you'll take that same approach. So now let's talk about how you make decisions about the colors that are not directly repeating something that you see when you look in the mirror, not your hair color or your skin color or your eye color. So just about everybody can wear just about every color family. The exception to that is the bright yellows into oranges, which are extremely difficult for many people. That doesn't mean no one can wear them well, but they're colors that you want to approach with a little bit of reluctance or a little bit of temerity as you're looking. The secret is that within each color family, a person wants to be sure that she's wearing colors that are about the same, what we call temperature that she is. That means the level of goldenness that's in her coloring. So although in primary art class, they told you that everything in the red, orange, yellow group were warm colors and everything in the greens, blues, and purples were cool, that's not really quite true. Even within the blue family, if you look at that color wheel, can you see how we inch over into those teals and turquoises and aquas by having added yellow to pure blue pigment? Within the purples, you'll see that there are purples that are more blue-based and purples that are more red-based, more plummy kinds of purples. So except for the yellow-orange range, you have both warm and cool in every color family. Second thing you want to look at is what we call color value, and that means the lightness and darkness of your coloring. And you want the majority of the colors you wear to be about as pale or about as deep or somewhere in the middle as your own personal coloring is. So for instance, Lisa and I both have high contrast, really dark hair, light skin. That kind of coloring supports stronger color values based on our hair color. On the screen, I'm seeing Diana right now, and do you see how her coloring is a little quieter? It's not quite as high contrast or as deep and dark, it's more medium. So she's going to be better in colors that are more medium. Intensity means how bright the color is. Some people beautifully carry off clear, darks, clear, bright, saturated colors, where other people are better in colors that have been grayed down a little or mixed with their complement to tone them down. But an easy way to get a pretty good idea about whether an accent color is a good choice for you is to look at how compatible it is with your key neutral. So remember when we were looking at the woman with the beautiful silver hair? Here's an example of her key neutral. And do you see how those particular colors that are a little bit mid-toned, a little bit grayed down, and definitely to the cool side, not any goldenness to them, how beautifully compatible those are with the gray core 4 that she might be working from? Those of you who are on the screen, would you just nod your heads so that I feel like people are saying, yes, oh yes, Nancy, I see that right away. And to help you see it, I'm going to substitute real quickly a black base instead. Now, could she layer those colors over the black base? Yeah, she could. But is it going to absolutely showcase her fabulousness? No, probably really not. Now, we said that there are people and color combinations that work really well with black. And here's an example. Down the right, you're seeing 3 women for whom black is a perfectly fine key neutral because of the darkness of their hair color primarily. And those sort of stereotypical, what fashion calls jewel tones, really clear, bright, cool colors like royal blue and Kelly green and vivid purple are all working really well with that black. So that is a thing. It's just not the thing that works as universally as we have been told that it would. So let's look at some other color schemes quickly. So here's a group of women who are much more flattered by dark chocolate brown than by black. And do you see how this group of colors is much more cohesive with the brown? Let's look at it quickly with the black. And again, you could do it. We've been conditioned to believe that everything goes with black. But does it have the resonance, and is it as flattering for those particular women as the combinations with chocolate brown? This is where you turn your head sideways to let me know that you are saying, oh no, Nancy, that did not look nearly as good. Another little trick that you're seeing in these combinations is a trick that I call linking accessories. Anytime you put together a slightly unexpected color scheme, which pretty much in our world means anything that isn't black and white and bright red based on what retail has been trying to convince us, anytime you put together that unexpected color combination, it's going to look a whole lot more right if there's some element in the outfit that combines those colors, that says, look guys, it's an outfit. I'm more fashionable than you. It is not just the only shirt I had clean this morning. Now, I use scarves a ton. They're a great accessory to do that linking thing, but a multicolored jewelry item could do it. Having, with that plum jacket, maybe having an underlayer that was a print in cream with chocolate brown and plum in it. A patterned garment could also fill that role as the linking element to pull a color combination together. Now, what about blondes? Well, for blondes, a terrific key neutral is something in a sandy camel or a light caramel kind of color. This is one situation where wearing your key neutral head to toe can be a little bit problematic because the blonde isn't going to have very much differentiation between her pale hair and her pale skin. And then if you put her all in a pale outfit, it can turn into sort of just a blonde blob in a big hurry. So the accent colors are really important for people with that coloring. But again, do you see how these accent colors make much more sense with camel? Here they are with black, just for comparison. But doesn't that feel a little hard-edged and definitely too heavy for those women? Now, it's pretty typical at this point in a live class for somebody to say, oh my gosh, but I have all this black in my wardrobe. What am I going to do? So let me show you how both black and classic navy blue can pretty readily be pulled in the direction of those other color patterns of women simply by adding elements that repeat their hair color. So in these examples, you're seeing a real classic navy blue pantsuit. And do you see how when the underlayer top and maybe the footwear and maybe the belt are picking up her hair color, and then somewhere in the combination, there's that multicolor piece that has both her hair color and the neutral to make the whole look cohesive, and how readily that's pulled back to her hair coloring. Now, an interesting thing about this, in every one of these examples, rather than doing a navy shoe to match that navy pantsuit or a black shoe to match a black pantsuit or dress or whatever, we've chosen footwear in her hair color. Now, the matching shoe would not have been wrong. It wouldn't be wrong at all. But do you see how it's just a little edgier, just a little more upstyled, if you will, to match the shoes to her hair color? And in terms of creating that elongating, taller, and trimmer look, what happens is the viewer's eye sees the same color at the very bottom of the look and the very top of the look, and tends to toggle briefly back and forth between the two, which is a vertical line every time. So just a really neat way of making any outfit when you're not sure what shoe to do, or you're consciously not going to match the shoe to the outfit, rather than defaulting to black, which again is what we're always told by retail we should do. Look for adding, if you don't already have it, a dressy shoe and a casual shoe in a color related to your hair, to your wardrobe, and you'll just be amazed how effective that can be. In fact, back to the shoes for just 1 minute. Heather and I now have a running joke, because over the amount of time that's Heather number 1, original Heather, not new Heather. For as long as we've been working together, she's been building up her collection of shoes in her pretty distinctive hair color. So next time we're able to be together, look at Heather's feet to see the validity of this concept. Now, for people who are interested in taking this information further, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that individual hand-picked color information is one of the services that I offer through my business, and we do it both face-to-face and virtual. And these are examples of just a few clients and the color fans that we created for them. And one of the things I want you to see about those color fans is how clearly they illustrate what we talked about earlier, that nearly everyone can wear nearly every color family except the oranges and yellows, and you'll only see those in Stephanie's color group. She's the one on the bottom left, obviously. But everyone has shades from the red family, shades from the greens, shades from the blues, shades from the purple. They're just a little bit different for each person. So if you look at Kim, the African-American woman on the top left, do you see how her color range is all deeper, stronger, richer colors, because her coloring is deeper, stronger, and richer? Linda, who's the bottom right, if you can take your eyes off those little cheeks and actually focus on Linda for a second, you'll see that she has exactly the same color families as Kim, but they're just a little lighter, brighter, a little toned down because her coloring isn't as deep. And if you look at, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name, but the blonde on the top right, again, she's got all those same color families, but because her coloring is softer and paler, do you see how they're toned down just a little bit? So whether you're ever considering an individual color consultation or not, I feel like this slide is a wonderful teaching tool to see how things shift just a little bit in terms of the very optimal choices for each client based on the details of her coloring. Now, so far we've talked a lot about solid colors. Let's talk a little bit about prints. Those of you who know me personally know that I sew a lot of my own clothing, and so I follow some sewing bloggers, including this woman, who is darling. She's a fabulous seamstress. She is built like Barbie, and she never looks anything less than absolutely perfectly groomed. And she has a real thing for these panel prints, which make up very interesting garments. But I would ask you to contemplate for a minute whether you see more of her or more of the garment. And now look when she chooses prints that have an element of her hair color going on in the print. Do you see how much more your focus now can move from the garment, even though they're very lovely garments, and move toward her total appearance? Now, I realize I'm asking you to make a little bit of a leap with me here because I've blurred out her facial features out of respect for using her pictures without actually asking. Please don't tell her. If she's your cousin, you never met me. I never did this. But do you get the feeling for that visual flow? And in the picture on the right, do you see how she's repeating her hair color in that fabulous suede shoe, and even has taken it a step further? Do you see how the toe on that shoe comes to a rather abrupt point? Now look at the shapes that you see in her hairstyle, especially her bangs. And do you see how that is another point of connection, another repetition of her personal characteristics in the things that she's wearing? Now, we've talked a lot about color. Color is always the first sorting characteristic when I'm making decisions in a client's closet. But of course, it's not the only thing. So once something has made the cut based on color choice, then we want to try it on and say, does it fit? And fit means a lot more than just, I was able to zip it. In my book, Looking Good Every Day, you'll find about 30 different criteria to check to be sure that something is really fitting correctly. Obviously, you want to ask if it needs repair or alteration, if it needs to be lengthened or shortened or taken in. Usually can't be let out very much, or if it's missing a button or whatever, we want to address those issues. Then we want to ask if it's comfortable, no matter what, how great looking something might be. If it's uncomfortable to wear, chances are you're never going to wear it, and you might want to think twice about putting it back in your closet to take up valuable real estate. We were talking before this session about how in the current climate, we're all being forced to be sometimes a little bit psychologically uncomfortable. That might be a great growth experience. Uncomfortable clothes, not so much. And then finally, is it flattering? Is it something that when you put it on, you feel good about how you look? Now, before you make a firm decision about whether something is flattering, I want to show you two little tricks that will run counter to everything that you are hearing in the fashion world and have been for at least the last decade. And the first of those is shoulder pads. I try not to even call them that. I try to call them shoulder shapers because shoulder pads get such a bad rap. But I'm going to hopefully go out of sharing my screen. Well, can you all see me at the top of your little stack of people? Yes, okay. Then I think I can do this without losing my share screen. But I want you to see this on me. So here I am in my turquoise or teal blue little dress, which I love. But do you see how I don't have a very strong shoulder line? So way too much of your attention is going right here to where I have a little more than I would care for. I'm going to take my removable fold shoulder shapers and tuck them in. First, I'll do just one, but can you see how much difference that makes, that when I strengthen that shoulder line, all of a sudden it looks literally like that side lifted. And watch when I add the other one. And you see how now my whole look is so much more balanced? And it's not just about our bust line. If you have a little more tummy than you wish, or a little more hip line than you wish, or if you wish that you had better posture, those amazing little shaped pieces of foam can just make all the difference. It also makes a big difference to push up a sleeve to give you more exposure of your arm down in here. For almost everyone, our wrists are our tiniest part. So if we certainly want to leave those exposed, and by visually lifting the hemline of that sleeve, it's another thing that pushes the focus up around your face. So, and there are little sleeve garters called sleeve bands that can help you achieve that look and keep it in place. Here are some other people doing those same things. In the first two women on the left, we've added that shoulder support on the left side of their body. And do you see how not only does it square off their figure, but look at the woman on the far left. Now look at the right side of her. And do you see how your attention just sort of slides right off her shoulder and down her arm, where on the left-hand side, it's automatically pushed right up to her face? In Melissa, the same young woman that you're seeing in the two slides on the right, you'll see how she took just a plain old basic little t-shirt, and by squaring off the shoulder line and pushed up the sleeves, made it into a much more stylish garment. So that's just really a magic little trick. Now, we're not talking about those gigantic honking kind of shoulder pads that Linda Evans wore on the old Dynasty TV show. What we're talking about is just a little subtle enhancement where nobody's going to say, oh my God, what is she doing with those shoulder pads? But just is going to see your silhouette looking a little more balanced. You could also spend the next year at the gym working on that, or you could do both. Either way. Now, interestingly, right before we're having this session, I was on a webinar with about a dozen other image and wardrobe consultants from around the country talking about doing closet consultations with clients in a virtual environment. And one of the questions that came up was kind of resonates for us at NCJW is what are people, what are we going to do with the clothes that our clients are discarding now that they can't take them anywhere to donate them? And I was horrified to hear one of them say, well, you know what designers do with the leftovers? They just burn them. Send them down to the incinerator in your building. I'm like, oh my God. So even though the NCJW resale shop is not currently able to accept donations because they were being flooded with really unusable items when Question?
Nancy, we are taking donations
Oh, yay.
Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 10 to 4. And
Would you like to speak to your criteria as well?
Sure. Let me turn this way towards the camera. So absolutely. So we are taking donations again on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 to 4. We are still doing the contactless donation process in the back of the building. So if you drive around the back, there's storage pods available, and you can drop your items off in those pods and take a receipt with you. We just ask that those donations be wearable and sellable. So we say if you would lend it to a friend, we can use it. We're accepting all categories of items, so the decorative housewares, jewelry, purses, shoes, belts, clothing for the entire family. So you're welcome to bring any of those categories. We just ask that all donations be put into either black trash bags or boxes, something that's sealed so that things won't fall out, because we are quarantining those donations for 3 business days before we process them.
Fabulous. So hot off the presses, you can responsibly pass those things along. I'm so glad to know that. That's terrific, because I've had clients drop things off with me, and now I can bring them over. That's great.
Yes, and we're excited to see everyone's face again.
Yay. So additional information. Obviously, there's tons more to say about this topic of how to wardrobe yourself most effectively. My book is available through my website. There's a video version as well if you'd rather watch the movie than read the book. My website is just my name, nancynixrice.com, without the hyphen. And I have a blog there with tons and tons of entries about every element of this. And I also have a YouTube channel. You just go to YouTube and Google my name, and you'll pop up with instructional videos about everything you can think of how to wardrobe yourselves the most effectively. So thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I've talked longer than I was supposed to. So I'll throw it back to Jessa to, I think, wrap things up with a guided meditation to calm us all down. Maybe if we did the guided meditation first, I would talk slower.
Well, would you like to address some questions?
I can, whichever you guys want.
If you could answer some of the questions that are in the chat, Lauren is going to feed them to you. And then it's not me this week. It's a very special guest, a very nice lady, a fine lady. Her name is Diana Fine, that will be doing the guided meditation. So, Lauren, do you want to hit on some of those questions with Nancy?
Sure. So, let's see. Let's go back and see. I think the first question was regarding, was from Miriam Cherry, and it was talking about the eye color. She wanted to know, she assumes this works also for glasses color. Mine are burgundy/gray.
A couple of interesting ways to do that. I know there are people who look at their eyewear as a fashion accessory, and okay, fine, do that. If you are going to have a pair of glasses that you want to wear all the time, my theory about that is very much like my theory about clothes. You want people to see you. So typically, if you keep your glasses frames relatively light not light color, but like not a real heavy, wide kind of frame, and tie it back to either your hair color or your eye color. That's the thing that's the most likely to keep you in focus. A quick funny story: when I was just being buddies with my husband, my now husband, back when I had a other husband, one day over lunch, over coffee or some time that we were together, he asked my advice about glasses frames, and I told him that. And Maybe 6 months later, we had coffee again. And at the end, he said, I'm so bummed you didn't say anything about my new glasses. And I said, that's the point. The last thing you want is the last thing I would want for my clients is for somebody to say, oh, wow, I love those giant new flashy glasses that you're wearing. So that's my spin on that one. Tie them back to something about you. Next.
All right, I'm throwing one quick one in while we're on the eye color. So I have hazel eyes. They go from brown to gold to green. So what do you do then?
So a couple of things that you do then. Number one, that means that the highlight color in your hair is automatically echoing an element of your eye color. So you get that effect going on without even trying, darn you. It also means that when you wear muted, like olivey, sagey kinds of green colors, for instance, I'll bet your eyes start to look more green. So that's that same effect. And you can also use the color wheel complement the opposite color. If you use tones of muted purples in your eyeliners and eyeshadows, and you don't want it to look like you have purple stripes on your face, but deep muted kinds of browny purples is the color wheel opposite of yellows and golds, and will bring out that element of your eye color. Beautiful. And similarly, wearing those colors in your clothing would do the same thing. Okay.
Thank you. So Lisa Gubernick would like to know, what would dark-haired people wear under navy pantsuits?
Okay. That brings up a rule and a guideline. So in any visual composition, the attention is going to go first and foremost to the area of the highest light to dark or bright to dark contrast. That's why retail loves black and white, because you walk into a store and the black and white stuff just jumps out at your eye. It's just so compelling, which is great for selling it, but not so great for wearing it, because then when you have on black and white or navy or white or any super high contrast combination like that, all the attention is going to go to the clothes and not to the person. So what someone with that high contrast color pattern like Lisa's or my own might prefer to do with black is a mid pink would be good. This jade green color or turquoise would be great. A red that's just a little bit toned down, not the most absolutely vibrant in your face kind of red. Any of the colors. Or your skin tone also would work just beautifully.
Okay, so this one's again for me. I guess I'm just very curious today. So you mentioned bringing in the tans with the blacks, because I definitely have a problem with having too much black.
Oh, everyone does. If you're an American female with a pulse, you have too much black in your closet.
So now I've always heard the rule about like you can't mix black and brown, or like, black.
Oh no,
with
black. That's
okay.
Can I say that's a BS rule?
Yeah.
Black and brown is a fabulously sophisticated color scheme.
Okay.
If you're going to put black solid pieces and brown solid pieces together, you need that linking accessory that contains both. So it doesn't look like I think we've also all done the thing where you got dressed in the dark and you have one black shoe and one navy shoe all day long. That sort of, you want to be clear that that's not going on. Also, for you, a lighter goldeny sort of a caramel brown is really your like mountaintop neutral. And that back to black is absolutely gorgeous. So not a problem. So if all of you can see Lauren, picture her wearing the brown pants that she already owns, and then a sweater, let's say, in that caramel color, not unlike what she has on. And now we add a scarf that's an animal skin print that has touches of black to relate to the pants, but mostly the variety of colors in her hair and her sweater. And do you see how knockout that would be? I'm so sad that we're not together, because I would love to be, whipping off an accessory and draping it across her and each one of you. When we're out of lockdown, let's all meet up at the resale shop one night and we'll just play. Is there another question?
So Jean Estrin was asking how to figure out best color for hair.
If you're going to chemically enhance your natural hair color, is that what we mean by that?
Unfortunately, I don't have more information on it.
Okay, I'm gonna
Unless she throws something else in, but
I'm going to assume that is what she means, because so many of us have been unable to get to the hairdresser these days, and are wondering if we should just let it grow out or do whatever. And a good clue is that your natural original hair color is almost always really flattering on you. The expression is that nature just doesn't make that kind of mistake. So the first answer is to stick with what the natural pre-gray color was, except that as we move through our life stages, we're very, very aware of the fact that we lose pigment in some strands of our hair in increasing numbers. What people don't realize as readily is that we're also losing pigment in our skin and our eyes, so that I'm sure we've all seen that little elderly lady with the jet black hair and how abrupt and aging that looks next to her super pale skin. That's because the two didn't stay in sync. So even if she wants to color it darker, she probably wants to go to a softer tone or to a rinse in color that's not going to be as opaque as her original hair might have been. I have also been getting bunches of requests from people to just start doing on my website a virtual hair color consultation service. So watch for that, because it is, and I didn't mean in that answer to imply even a little bit that letting our hair go to its natural unpigmented color might not also be an absolutely terrific option. We just would want to update our color choices to stay in sync with that.
So she has one follow-up question. What to do if the hair fades over time within like weeks?
That's a technical question and not really an aesthetic question. So I'm going to defer that one to your hairstylist.
I have a question. Can anyone hear me?
Yes. Oh, we could, but now you muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, now you're good.
All right, I'm 4'11" and I love red. And red with pants, anything I wear cuts me in half. What can I do? Because I become alive with bright red, any shade of red. I really do.
Okay, so then what you want to do,
it's my personality.
what you want to do is wear that red in color column ways. So for instance, a red dress is going to work way better than a red jacket with a hem that hits in the middle of your body and cuts you off. But if you want to do a red jacket, put it over a continuous flow of underneath color. So envision whatever neutral, let's say navy. You might do a navy pant and shell and then throw your red jacket over it. Leave the jacket ajar, so it has to be a size that could button. It drives me crazy when people say they're going to buy a jacket that won't button on them because they're never going to button it. Because what then happens is it spreads open, fits to the outside of your boobs and looks terrible. But assuming that the red jacket actually is the right size, leave it a little bit ajar so you still have the opening between the two edges where a viewer's eye can follow that navy pant and shell all the way vertically up and down your body. And then you want to pop some pretty eye-catching accessory right here at the neckline to anchor that focus at the top, and you'll do fine. Pushing up the sleeves on a red jacket or cardigan will help too, and shoulder support.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we've got about time for one more question before we do the celebration of the end.
And Carol Gardner asked, where can I buy the shoulder shapes and sleeve bands?
Both of those are on my website. You can buy shoulder shapes all over the place, but the secret is that you want them to just cling to the fabric, to not have to be sewn in, so you can move them from garment to garment. So I have some custom made for us that have a little bit of texture to the edge, so it grips. It's not totally like Velcro, but it's that concept where the texture of the surface of the pad grips to the fabric inside your garment, and they just stay in place all day. And they come in various thicknesses. So, okay.
Okay. So I think it's up to Diane, unless you have any last words, Nancy.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I want Diana to soothe me.
All right.